how have you been able, you shared this a little bit, but is there anything you wanted to add? How have you been able to be a light as a Christian in the political world? So you said with your votes, but
So yes, and I believe that we're supposed to be a light as a Christian. So
hmm
I try to live the same life there as I do here.
hmm
I don't go down there, and I don't go to all the parties. I don't go to. Now, I'm not saying I don't go out to the dinners and
yeah,
things. I do some,
yeah,
but very few.
hmm
I'm not going to sit around with a wine or a beer or a whiskey in my hand. I don't,
yeah,
So I try to be the same guy there as
hmm
I'm sitting here being.
that's great.
I don't hide who I am. I try to be the best person I am, and I think that um, being strong that way will show others that it's okay,
Yes, yeah, that's
especially
great.
our young people.
Yes, that's great. And I remember like I talked about, being a people pleaser before, and I felt like when I went out, I had to always have this big smile on my face and always like be all things to all people. And you just can't do that. And I do have a smile on my face a lot of the times because I am very joyful and I love to smile. But I also talk about the hard stuff. Before we hit record, I shared about, when it comes, and I don't care, I'll share it with everybody, but when it comes to doing the podcast, or sometimes before I'm like leading my teen group or leading my women's group, there is spiritual warfare around that. And so last night we have 10 puppies right now, and they had me up 6 times, and my husband got up the seventh time with them, and our little girl had us up 2 times, and I got up at 5 this morning because I knew I had to get ready and take care of the puppies and everything before I left for this. So and a lot of time I feel like spiritual war, it's always like in the middle of the night, like just taking the sleep away. But talking about like before, I don't even know that I'd open up about those hard things that I was going through because I'd be like, oh, I don't want to be like a Debbie Downer. But that's real life, and people can relate to you, and people feel more comfortable to talk to you about stuff when you do show the high points and the low points, right?
And I'm not a smiler.
Yeah.
My mom always said I always look like a sourpuss, but I struggle a lot. But even today, I'm serious, right? I'm
Mhm.
a worker. I like to work. I don't. So when I'm in Charleston, it's all about getting the job done.
Mhm.
And but I think that, I think that I've earned a lot of respect down there because of it.
Yep.
I'm just a normal guy, and again, I don't try to be anything. I make videos on Facebook that I'm sitting in a tractor because that's where
Yeah.
I'm most comfortable,
Yep.
right? I don't. It's hard for me to set up a camera and have that conversation with a camera
Yeah.
sitting in my living room or the
Yes.
kitchen or whatever. But when I'm in the tractor, it comes easier.
Yeah, that's so good.
I'm not trying to. I'm not sitting in a three-piece suit trying to be something I'm not.
Yes. I respect that. That's cool. So what, and by the way, I told him before I hit record there was 2 questions that God really like laid on my heart before we even started recording. So I took 2 of them out, and then I added these 2. So these were not sent to him like in advance, but what is a major challenge that you see our state facing right now?
Probably the biggest thing in the state that we challenge is economically, right?
Mhm.
We struggle with economic development.
Yeah.
That we can look at that as it's a struggle, but we're also working on it, so that's a plus in the state of West
Mhm.
Virginia. Also, we're doing some things that I wasn't comfortable with when I first went down there. I'm very conservative. I try to not spend the taxpayers' dollars in a frivolous ways,
Yeah.
and economic development is something I struggle with.
Mhm.
I'm a capitalist, a free
Okay.
market capitalist, right?
Mhm.
So I want if a, I want to set it up to where companies want to come to the state of West Virginia, and tax incentives or things like that, not actually writing them a check,
Yeah.
which we do that. From what I'm understanding, everybody around us does that, so we have to try to compete, and
Okay.
that's how we compete.
Okay.
But I would say that that's a struggle right now that we're trying to change.
Mhm.
We're trying to build our economic development in the state of West Virginia, broaden our horizons,
Mhm.
broaden it out of gas and coal and timber, which
Yeah.
we've always been. So that's a struggle,
Yeah.
but that's also our plus,
Mhm.
our benefit, or the future that we're trying to mold. It's
Yeah.
not easy.
Yeah.
It's going to be a struggle, and it's a struggle to get everybody on board.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that we all are, and I'm not 100%. There's things that I don't like.
Yeah.
Um, so I would say that's our biggest struggle.
Okay. And then what is a way that our state is growing or improving?
Well, as Christians and as conservatives, I believe that we're on the right path of we're ahead of most states on, like I said, abortion, transgender surgeries.
Mhm.
Our moral compass is good in West Virginia,
Yes, I
and I
agree.
think I think we're doing a good job there.
Yeah.
West Virginia has changed tremendously over the last few years, and I think it's all to the good. It's just slow coming. Some people don't believe that we're doing enough,
Mm.
but it takes time.
Yeah.
I'll just say it. Democrats, it took them 80 to 100 years to get us in this position,
Yeah.
and it's going to take us a minute to get us out of this position, right? So,
Yes.
but we're doing good. We are, the economy has hit the state the same as it has the country
Yeah.
financially. So we're borderline right now on our budget,
Mhm.
but we're trying to be physically conservative and fiscally conservative, and trying to make sure we stay in the black.
Yeah.
And it's getting harder. We've made tax cuts. We're cutting our personal income tax in the state of West Virginia.
Mhm.
We've cut Social Security taxes. We're doing all of these things in the state of West Virginia that are on the positive side to make us more competitive in the work.
Yeah.
We just got to do better at getting young people to work.
Yeah.
And my idea on that is we don't we push college too much,
Yeah.
and we need to start getting back into the working with our hands in the
For sure.
trades.
Yeah.
We still need plumbers, we still need
Mhm.
electricians, we need all of these things that people have been told for the last 50 years that's bad,
Yeah.
and that we need to
I
go
agree.
work with our minds instead of our backs. Well, if we don't have
Mhm.
the people doing the manual labor, the guy sitting behind the desk
Yeah.
has no job.
Yeah, that's so true. And I know, I mean, that's my husband's story. Like, he did not go to college. As soon as he could, it's funny, his parents had bought him some kind of PlayStation or something. We never had him growing up at all. And he had it for like a week or two and sold it and bought his first chainsaw. And so, like, and he was
Nice.
really young then. So he started doing that. And then he started mowing, all the parents, or not all the parents, all his neighbors' yards. And then he went to selling firewood, and this was in high school. He had a couple of his buddies work for him that he paid, not a ton, but paid, and always bought their dinner after work because they would be working until 11 o'clock at night, after a school night. And just little things like that. And I remember when I went to college, he was like, I don't know, should I go to college and like take business classes? Because that was so pushed when we were in high school. And I said, I think you're doing great. Like, I don't think, if you feel led to do that and learn more with business and everything, sure, go for it. But I didn't think that was necessary. And he's done so well for himself. And it's cool. Like, he partnered up with Randall
Mhm.
Stoltzfus, and they've just done so much good together. And they figured out, like, Dakota does a lot of the machine work, and like Randall is better with their billing and stuff. So Randall still goes out on jobs, that he also takes care of a lot of the billing. So really, if Dakota went and did that, he might have just wait he wouldn't have needed
Right.
it. God had a plan ahead of time. And I remember growing up, like, one of my good friends' moms, she would always message me and be like, you need to talk to my daughter into getting into college, like, talk her into go. And it's not for everybody. I'm not going to push that on anybody, because, like, look at my brother James. Like, he works for the Prince George's County Fire Department, and he does really well for himself, like, with that. So there's just so many avenues where I just saw so many. I went to WVU, okay, and like, there's all these thoughts about WVU because it's a party school, and they said 1 in 4 students drop out of WVU within the first year. So think about that debt that
Yeah.
kids are getting in.
Right.
And thankfully, I was able to get a lot of scholarships and work all through college and graduate debt free. So because I hate debt. I did not want that debt. But that is a reality if you're going into the, medical field or this or that, as a teacher, I needed that. But there's a lot of jobs where you do not
Right.
need that. So,
And you can make a good living, right? I mean, I've done again. I didn't have a college degree, and I've
yeah.
done well for myself. Yeah, I've worked hard,
Yeah.
and as you get older, you pay for that physically. Your
Yeah.
body starts to break down, but it again, it can be done,
Mhm.
and there's no shame in hard work.
Yep.
I don't understand why we think that. My granddad raised all them kids, 8, 10 kids, whatever it was, and couldn't read or write, couldn't write his name,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So it's, I guess it's just what people look at success,
Mhm.
and I don't look at success maybe the same as others.
Yes. Well, that was my grandma's story. So she stopped going to school at 8th grade, which that was a thing they could do back
Mm-hmm.
then because she didn't feel like because she had some holes in her clothes and they didn't have enough money to buy these nice clothes. So she felt shame over that. So she quit going to school. So she didn't have that further education. So to see like people dressed with like holes in their jeans. She passed away a few years ago. She was 97, but she would have been like just mind blown by that because that's why she didn't go on to school. And then she never worked. She never got her driver's license. Like she was home on the farm and that's it. She left to go and to the doctors and stuff in Winchester, which was a 30-minute drive for her. But that was her life. That was her purpose, and she did it so well. Like I loved and she had so much time for us too. We would do picnics like out in her yard under the pine tree. And there was just so many great memories because she didn't have a cell phone. She didn't have that to distract her. She didn't have to go to work like my grandfather worked and he was a farmer and a really good businessman. That was their livelihood. And so and it's great that like a lot of my family still live on that farm. He bought our family farm back in the Great Depression and it's 2,300 acres and like he they had things that people needed like eggs and for people say they would sell that and that's how they
Right.
made things work and it was she had so much purpose in that. And I feel like when you say today, like I remembered when we both felt like God was calling me away from teaching to be at home with our kids. And people would just be like, you're going to be a stay at home mom. Like, and that was a little bit, nobody actually told me like that's terrible, but it was a little bit looked down on. And I mean, a couple months into it, I did feel like he was calling me. So I started the daycare at our house. So I do that. And I've always discipled teens since I came home from college. And then the women's group started out of the community that I might have not had time to do if I was teaching full time.
Right.
So, and I don't know. I said I'm playing with an open hand. Like God might call me back to that when our kids get into school, and I'd be totally happy with that. But I'm just doing what God places before me, and it is a very full plate, but it's a very blessed plate as well. And most of the stuff that I'm doing, I do not make a dime off of. The groups that I lead, I make dinner for them. I make dinner for the teen group, the women's group. There's a men's group now, so a couple women like we get together and make dinner for their group and all that's out of pocket. Like it's not like what we're doing is financially blessed like we talked about. It is truly like it is more blessed to give than receive. Like the Bible does say that and I just see that play out so much like in our lives. So how can our community come alongside you in making a difference for others and loving our neighbors well? So I said loving our neighbors well because Jesus summed up the 10 commandments that we talked about in the New Testament. He summed it up in 2 commands. It's love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So how can we do that? How can we love our neighbors well?
I guess pretty much that's what we've been talking about this whole time, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to get involved. We need to um, somehow convince people how important it is to be involved.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I would, I reckon that would be the the biggest thing is we've got to get we've got to come together as a community more, instead of, we think about ourselves too much in this day and age,
Yeah.
and we forget about the everybody around us. Now,
Yeah.
Hampshire County is very good, as you know. When
Yeah.
somebody gets cancer or somebody's in a car crash or whatever that might be, we come
Yes.
together and we give money.
Yeah.
Right? We do.
Yeah.
But
We
money
make
is not all the
meals and
thing that we need
yeah.
to give. We also, you know, some people, and I was guilty of this too. Well, the only thing I can do is pray.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's everything we can do.
Yes.
It's not the only thing we can do.
There's
It's
so much power in
everything we
prayer.
can do.
Yeah.
And that's big. And we've got to get people involved. It's simple. I know it sounds simple, but it ain't simple.
Yeah.
But I, you know, it is simple as that. It's getting
Yes.
people involved in their community and helping their neighbor.
Yeah. And if you feel like God's laying something on your heart to do and a way to serve and it's part of your gifting, like maybe God's calling you to step into that.
Then there's always, everybody has a gift. They just
Mm-hmm.
might not know what that gift is, or they might think that it's not good enough.
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what that might be. I don't know. Again, I have no answer to that. I didn't think I had a gift either, and I still don't look at this as a gift. Sometimes I think it's a curse, but it's some reason God snapped me one day and said it's time to do this, and I did
Yeah.
it. And
That's so
going
cool.
into it blind, but
Yeah.
so just listen to what God has to say and do it.
Yes. Yeah, that's so good. And something when it comes to praying, you might be like, "Well, I don't know what to pray." Something that I pray over our country, over our state, like over our world, over our schools too. I lump it all together and I say, "God, I just pray that you'll bless our state and our country and our schools, that you'll keep them safe and that you will rise up Christian leaders within them and that they will make an impact for the kingdom." I mean, that took how long? That took 20 seconds probably to pray. And that's something it makes such an impact on. And then when God lays that on your heart, like I've mentioned in past episodes, but there are resources where, and I can put them in the show notes too, where you can figure out what your spiritual gifts are. Like for me, my spiritual gifts, hospitality. So I host people all the time, teaching and exhortation. So like encouragement, and those are my top three. And I'm like, okay, how am I using these? And there's ways you can use them in your daily life. So figuring out what God has given you as your giftings and just ask him, okay, like I surrender my life to you. I'll go where you want me to go. I'll do what you want me to do. I want to live my life for you. And that is the most scary and exciting prayer that you can pray.
And if you trust in God, He'll take care of you.
Yeah.
That's just it.
Yep. That's so true.
And it's the fact. And sometimes, as I told you earlier, you don't have to trust in God. God trusts in you, and He'll get you there.
Yeah.
Something I always like to say too is, we have a habit of saying, "Well, I just hope God's on my side."
Yeah.
Well, God's always on your side.
Yeah.
God is always there. It's time for you to be on His side.
Yes.
And when I decided that, when I learned that, life got a lot easier.
Mm-hmm. That's
There
well
wasn't
said.
the struggles.
Mm-hmm.
God was always there. I just didn't see it.
Yeah. And so I would encourage our listeners, if you're struggling with that and be like, I don't see God in my life, I don't feel him, pray that every single day. Pray it for a month straight. And like, just, I have complete faith that God will show up. We just have to be willing to see him in the mundane parts of life and see his hand in that and just watch him move.
And again, I hate to keep, but
no, go ahead.
It's even the bad things. I can look back on the struggles and some bad business decisions I've made, right? I can look back today and understand that those was all molding me to today. It gave me experiences, so when I'm making decisions in Charleston, that I have that experience and can say, oh, I lived through that a little bit, so it gives me a different perspective than the normal average citizen that maybe never did, or even the other legislator that never went through those trials, or not even just the trials, but just that type of business, but they're making decisions.
Yeah.
So we all like to try to lean on the, um, so you got a teacher in Charleston. I go to a teacher and say, hey, look, is this the best,
Yeah.
you know, or a lawyer or whatever we go through. We have our different strengths, and I know that's a little bit off, but
No, yeah, that's
we
so
feed off
true.
of that with each other to help make these decisions,
Yep.
and 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 your experiences in life is what helps us make better decisions as we get older. I
Yeah.
mean, we have to go through the we have to go through the trials
Hmm.
to get us to the finish line.
Yep. And they grow us so much
Right.
along the way.
It's made me the man that I am today.
Yeah.
And whether some look at that as bad or good, I feel that I've been a blessed guy.
Yeah. And hindsight's 2020. Like
Yep.
you think about when you are in the midst of some of those low points in your life, do you think, 20 years later, you would have been like, man, I'm glad I went through that. I wouldn't change a thing. You probably wouldn't think that in the moment. And that's what I want to encourage people. Like when you are in the depths, you're probably not going to think, I wouldn't change it. Because in the moment, you'd want to change it. But God really just walks us through those valleys. And it grows us if you allow Him to, if you
Yes.
invite Him like into it and say, like, okay, what are you doing? What do you want me to do right now?
What is the song? Surrender all.
Yes. Yep.
As you know, when you surrender all, then I'm telling you, there's no better feeling.
Yep. I agree. I agree.